Leeds International School English Language of Form 5 Lower First Midterm. Out by Robert Frost. From page 2322-235. Let's move to the objectives of the lesson Out by Robert Frost. You will learn background of the poet, summary of the poem, the themes, techniques and language used in the poem. Finally, to develop skills such as critical thinking, analysis, reasoning and interpretation. Here you can see a picture of the poet of the poem Out. Yes, who is the poet? Robert Frost. Some key information it's mentioned here. Okay, you have to move to this information. I'm not going to read this, right? You have to keep a pause and go through each information carefully, right? Yes. Now we have moved to the summary of the poem Out by Robert Frost. Before moving to the summary, I want you to move to your book. Right? You have to go through the poem once and try whether you can understand the poem, right, with the words which have been used there. Right? That's what I want you to do first thing. Right? Then after that, you have to move to this slide. Got it? Okay. This is the summary. You have to listen well, right? I haven't included it here because with this I want to improve your listening skills as well. Right? Therefore, you all have to listen well and yes, understand the summary of this poem. This young boy, right? This young boy who is cutting firewood, right? Who is cutting firewood with a bazoo, B-U-Z-Z, right? Bazoo in New England. Now it has been near the end of the day, right? It has been near the end of the day. Got it? Right. By that time, this boy's sister, she announces that it is time for dinner. Right? It's time for dinner. After hearing that, right, this boy, right, he is excited. Right? He is excited and accidentally he cuts his hand with the saw. Right? By that time he begs his sister not to allow the doctor, right, to amputate his hand. But later he realizes that he has already lost too much blood to survive. Right? As he has lost too much blood, this boy, he dies. And the people, those who have gathered around to see what has happened to him, right, again they go back to their work. This is the summary of the poem Out. Did you understand it? Yes or no? Okay, answer is yes. Right, then let's move to the next slide. Yes, we are going to learn about the structure of this poem Out. I have taken 3 major points under that. Yes, let's read this. The first one is a long narrative poem. Next one, free verse. And the third one is refrain used. Let's move to this first point, a long narrative poem. We can say this poem Out Out, right? It's a long narrative poem. When you count lines there, you can find there are 34 lines without any stanza break, right? Then we can see it's written as one long poem because of that, right? Because of the length of the poem, right? We can say it's a long narrative poem. Our second point is free verse. You know that when we talk about this free verse, it's a type of poetry that does not contain patterns of rhyme or meter, right? There isn't in rhyme or meter. This poem Out Out, right? It's in free verse. It's a free verse poem without any strict, right? Without any strict rhyme or meter. Is that point clear? Right, let's move to the third one, that is a refrain used, right? What do you know as refrain? It also comes under structure, right? When you move to the book, you can see, right, you have to have that, yes, clear look of the poem. You have to go through the poem carefully. By that time, you can catch this, right? The points I'm explaining now. The lines, right? The lines that are repeated at some distance in the poem are called refrain. Listen well. I'm going to repeat. The lines that are repeated at some distance in the poem are called refrain. The same, right? The same lines, right? Not together, right? Once they are used, not in a line, right? But in some distance, if you can see the same lines, by that time we have to say refrain, it's used, right? In this verse, you can see the buzzard snarled and rattled. Now you have to keep your book with you and just move to this, okay? You have to listen and keep in a pause. Have to turn to the book, okay? That's how you have to learn today. Now you can check what is teacher telling you, teaching you, whether it's correct, right? That's how you all have to learn. Yes, as I have been telling you the verse, right? The buzzard snarled and rattled, right? It's repeated with the same words, right? It's repeated in the same words, but not after writing the first one as the second one. Not they aren't there together, right? That line, right? It has become a refrain as it has been repeated in the first and seventh lines, right? First and seventh lines in the poem. Is that clear? If it is used first and the second line, right, we can't say that refrain is used. But in this poem, you can see the buzzard snarled and rattled. That was in, yes, the first and seventh lines. Is that clear? Hope you all have understood it well. Is your answer yes? Okay, good. Yes, we have come to the themes of this poem, Out Out. When we talk about themes of this, right, we can see three major themes. How many? Three, yes. Three major themes in this poem. What are those? The first one is death. Next one, child labor. Finally, we can consider fragility of life. Right here, fragility of life means in any age, under any kind of circumstance, there will be possibility for the death. This death, it doesn't consider the age, right? When we move to this poem, that is one of very good examples, right? Is that clear? That's the thing, that's the reality of life you all have to understand, right? Okay, let's repeat. How many themes are there in this poem outlined by Robert Frost? There are 3 themes. You all have to read these with me, right? What are those? Let's read. 1, 2, 3. Death, child labor, fragility of life, right? Now we are going to learn about the techniques used in this poem, out, right? I have taken to consider 8 techniques, right? On this slide there are 4. The rest of the techniques I'm going to describe, next slide. Okay, right, let's move to the mentioned techniques here. You have to read with me. 1, 2, 3. Let's start. Assonance, consonance, alteration, personification. Okay, now as I'm going to describe this, you all have to pay enough attention, right? Let's move to the first one, assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in the same line. Now you have to guess the examples, right? I hope you are that book, right? English language book, right? That anthology is with you, right? Turning the page 232, right? Therefore, by the time now I'm explaining this, I want you to refer the book as well, right? To consider that all sound, I can give you this example. And made dust and dropped stove lead sticks of wood, right? That's the example for the assonance, right? The sound O. Let's move to another one. Here, I'm giving you an example for E sound, right? He lay and puffed his lips out with his breath. Got it? Okay, our second technique of this slide is consonance. Consonance is the repetition, right? Consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds, right? The repetition of consonant sounds in the same line. Now I'm not giving you the lines, right? With the examples, you have to find, yes, the lines, right? Yes, for the t sound, this is the example. The doctor, when he comes, don't let him, sister, right? Then w sound, he must have given the hand, however it was. Got it? Then let's move to our next technique, that is alteration. What is alteration? I know that you all answer it, but the problem is I can't hear, right? Okay. Let's move to see what's the alteration is. Alteration means, alteration is the repetition of, right? Alteration is the repetition of consonant sounds, right? Alteration is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line in quick succession, right? Now you don't try to just mix these two, consonants and alteration. Right? What's the definition of this alteration? Alteration is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line in quick succession. Right? In quick succession, such as the sound, yes, sir. Yes, keep in mind that when sir sound is there, right, we have to say, right, yes, there should be quick succession, quick change, right, like this. This is the example, right. I'm going to take the sound sir here, sweet scented stuff, right. Now see how quick it's changed, right? Sweet scented stuff. We can't stop there. Just telling like this, sweet scented stuff. No, right? We have to go with the same flow. Sweet scented stuff. When the breeze drew across it, sound, right? It can be heard well. Right. Our fourth technique of this slide is personification. Right? What is personification then? Yes, to give human qualities to inanimate objects. Right? When we talk about that, the zoo, right? Here, it's compared to a buzzing sound. Right? It's compared to a buzzing sound, and it's personified like this. The buzzers knelt and rattled in the yard and made dust and dropped stolen stakes of wood. Is that clear? Now, do you have any kind of idea of these techniques? Yes or no, Pute? Yes, I feel that your answer is yes, right? Therefore, I'm going to move to our next 4 techniques. Okay, let's move. Yes, so we have moved to the rest of the techniques of the poem, out, out. Let's read this first, right? You have read with me. Imagery, symbolism, onomatopoeia, enjambment. Right, though that B, right, letter B is there, I'm talking about enjambment, right, there we don't pronounce it, not enjambment, right, it's silent, right, by the time that we pronounce this word, it's silent, that letter B, right, enjambment, right, you have to, yes, use M sound there, with the letter M, got it? Okay, let's move to that first technique here, imagery. Right? Imagery, it's used, right? It's used to make readers perceive things involving, yes, with senses. Yes, 5 senses. Then what's the example? The buzzer snarled and rattled in the yard. We can take that, right? This, right, can you remember we took this, right, the buzzer snarled and rattled in the yard for that personification too. But when we talk about imagery, we can take this line as an example for that imagery too, right? The buzzer snarled and rattled in the yard. By the time that you go through this line, you feel like you can hear that sound, right? Then what's the imagery there? Auditory, right? Auditory imagery, it's used with that. Got it? Now I'm giving you some more examples. And made dust and drop stove-land sticks of wood. The doctor put him in the dark of Ada. Right? Then let's move to the next technique, that is symbolism. Symbolism is the use of symbols, right? Symbolism is the use of symbols to signify ideas and qualities by giving them symbolic meanings, right? By giving them symbolic meanings, that are different from their literal meanings. Right, when we talk about, right, now you can see there's a picture of sunset, right? When we talk about that, right, here, sunset symbolizes, right, sunset symbolizes the end of the young boy's life. Is that clear? Now, when we talk about, right, let's move to the start of this poem. The buzzards knelt and rattled in the yard, and made dust and dropped stone-laid stakes of wood. Sweet-scented stuff when the breeze drew across it, and from their doors that lifted eyes could count 5 mountain ranges, one behind the other. Under the sunset far into Vermont. Is that clear? How that symbolism is used in the poem? Is it clear? Okay, good. Let's move to onomatopoeia then, right? Here, right, onomatopoeia refers to the words related to natural sounds of animals or objects. That's the definition of that, right? Here, when we talk about some words are used there, such as buzz, snelled, rattled, right? We can say this poet, right, Robert Frost, he has used those to give onomatopoeic what? Yes, to give onomatopoeic sounds, right? He has used words buzz, knelt, rattled, right? Yes, to show the technique onomatopoeia, right? Onomatopoeia used in the poem, right? In this poem, right, he hasn't included that, yes, I have used this technique for this, that technique for, to refer that. Not like that, right? In any poem, right, poets, they don't mention like that, right? As learners today, right, we have to explore those and find. Got it? That is called learning. Right, you have to explore. Oh, right. Let's move to our last technique, that is enjambment. It's defined as a thought. When we talk about enjambment, right, it's defined as a thought or clause. As a thought or clause that does not come to an end, right? That does not come to an end at a line break, right? To an end at a line break. Instead, right? Instead of that, what happens? It moves over the next line. It moves over the next line. For example, right? Let's move to this. These lines. This stanza. The buzzard snelled and rattled in the yard, and made dust and dropped stove-length stakes of wood, sweet-scented stuff when the breeze drew across it. I hope with these examples plus the definitions you have understood about this technique. Yes or no? Don't say no, right? Okay. I hope your answer is yes. Right. Yes, finally we have moved to the activities. Here you have to do 4 activities, right? Let's move to the first one. Yes, the mentioned page number is 2, 3, 4. Turn the page there in your book? Yeah, you can see there's a grid with 3 columns, right? In each column it is mentioned like this. In the first one, language technique. In the second, example. Yes, in third one, effect. Right? An example is given. What's the mentioned language technique there? Personification. Example, right? You have to provide relevant example there, right? Now let's move to this given example. The buzzer was nailed and rattled. That's the example. When you talk about the effect of that language technique, you have to just every time you have to think why it's used. What's the purpose? Okay? You have to keep those two in your mind. Right? Once you after listening this, when you are going to answer for this Pute, definitely you can do it, because now the things I'm teaching you, right? The things I'm teaching you, right? You will store everything, right? You will store everything well. This is what I think, right? I think that you all will work well, right? Here, then what's the effect of this personification? Makes the machine seem like a savage beast, right? Snailed, right? Snailed and rattled. Okay? Like that, there are some more language techniques, right? You have to complete the rest of the columns, right? Example and effect following the first one. Right, let's move to the page number 235. There, first one is activity 1. Activity 1, right? Reading between the lines. Here, language referring to family. What does this show? Here, family means, right, the family which is talked, right, about in this poem. Right, let's move to this one. Although the boy is shown to be part of a family, he also seems quite isolated in the poem, and there is little sympathy, right? There is little sympathy for the rest of the family's attitudes. What does the poem's language show you about? About what? The boy's sister, the relationships within the family's reactions to the boy's tragic early death. Is that clear? Considering these parts, you have to write answers in these 2 columns. Okay, the other one is activity 2. You have to refer the same page. Explaining the accident. Work with the partner. Right now, it's no need to work with the partner, right? As you are going to watch this, right? You have to do it alone, right? Here, imagine that, right? Imagine that one of you, it means one of you means once you are going to work with your partner, right? Work with a partner, imagining that one of you is a police officer and that the other is a member of a family who actually saw the accident. Describing the events, the police officer in your roles conduct an interview to investigate the circumstances of the accident. Interesting. It's very interesting, this activity, right? As now you are watching, right? You are watching this at home, right? There won't be any partner, right? Just to talk about this matter. But you can imagine, right? Okay, now I have a partner, right? Now with your mind you can just talk, right? Right? Being a police officer, then you can imagine it, right? That you can ask question, right? From the person that you have imagined, right? Okay. The other one, activity 3, writing task. Write an article on the dangers to children of undertaking adult work, persuading people to adhere to health and safety advice. Okay, hope, right, you all will answer these 4 questions well. Okay, right. Yes, this is the end of the poem Out Out by Robert Frost. Thank you. Bye-bye.